Welcome back, everyone, to the channel. This is Decoding with Cody. Today is April 21st, 2026. And today this is a recorded video. Later tonight, we have the Eye to Eye podcast at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Ball Don't Lie channel. Don't forget that later tonight. But in this video, we are going to quickly go over something that I covered last week that also manifested again this week. And we had a shooting at a pyramid in Mexico. And if you guys recall, last week, I did a video about the eclipse that's going to go over the pyramids in Egypt, okay? Different country, but still, you're having a shooting in Mexico on a pyramid. And I guarantee you, I'm going to show you how this is connected to the eclipse. The eclipse of the century is what they're calling it. That's going to go over Egypt and the pyramids in 2027, which is the reason why I believe there's a lot of 27s in this ritual. So let's just get into it. Let me find the thing here. So the 2026 Teotihuacan pyramids, however you say that, happened on April 20th, 2026 at the pyramids in Mexico. A gunman opened fire from atop the Pyramid of the Moon. Okay, so the Pyramid of the Moon, right? The moon is the one involved in causing the total solar eclipse that's going to go over Egypt's pyramids next year. And now we have a guy in Mexico on a pyramid of the moon doing a shooting, okay? And I'm going to show you how it's connected. And this happened on April 20th. Now, as you're going to read here, it mentions in the thing, it says this happened on the 27th anniversary of the Columbine shooting. You guys know what that is, and that was also on Mr. Mustache's, who also I'm not going to talk about too much. It was on his birthday, of course, right? But it was also on the anniversary of this column shooting. Okay, I'm just being very careful how I talk about this. So it was on the 27th anniversary. Now, the suspect is also 27. So he was born around the same time of the original column shooting. And he even posted himself. He expressed admiration for Mustache Man. And he posted an AI photo of himself with Eric Harris and Dylan, the two guys involved in the you guys know what, which, again, was 27 years to the day. So it's obviously connected with those two things, but the big here is the 27, guys, because we have a 27-year-old shooter. We have a 27th anniversary of the column shooting. So what's up with the 27s? Well, there's going to be an eclipse over the pyramids, just like this one happened at the pyramid. There's going to be an eclipse over the pyramids in 2027. 27, right? So you get this 27 ritual. And it's going to point to the year 2027. And so let's go into the slides. So another interesting fact is the president of Mexico, her last name is Scheinbaum. I find that interesting because Scheinbaum's very German, and this was on the birthday of Mustache Man, so there's that connection. But we're going to talk about my video from last week. So last week I did a video called The World's Most Powerful Reset. And I told you guys how this Trump tweet where he said world's most powerful reset, how it was connected to the eclipse and how I believe this eclipse in August 2nd, 2027, which is the longest total solar eclipse over land this century. So it's the longest total solar eclipse this century. And how Trump posted the world's most powerful reset and how it's connected to this eclipse and the WEF and the reset, right? But also the Bank of America Tower in Charlotte, North Carolina has this pyramid with a Trump-looking young boy, a total solar eclipse, and a pyramid, okay? And you guys got to go back and watch this video from last week. Again, it's titled World's Most Powerful Reset, okay? I'm not going to go over all the details here. But the gist of that decode was that the guy who drew the picture in Charlotte's Bank of America, with the pyramid and the eclipse and the little boy Trump looking person, his name was Ben Long, and Ben Long equals eclipse. And Ben Long, because long is a reference to the only eclipse that fits. It's this picture is the only eclipse that fits this picture perfectly is the eclipse next year. And that eclipse is the longest total solar eclipse of the century. And of course, a guy named Ben Long drew this, and this was on the Bank of America, guys. That's the money system. This is the reset, the financial reset, okay? And I'm going to show more of that in a minute. But okay, so just keep this in mind. The guy Ben Long drew this, and his name equals eclipse. Well, now we get a shooting at the pyramids in a country called Mexico, and Mexico equals eclipse. So it's a perfect country to pay tribute. You know, it would have been a little bit more perfect if it happened in Egypt, but you guys might say, okay, Cody, it's in a completely different country. It doesn't connect. Well, no, it does. It clearly does, because they're paying tribute to the pyramid. Now, why is Mexico so perfect? Not only does Mexico equal eclipse, do you guys remember the Great American Eclipse that happened in 2024 that went over the United States and made an X over Little Egypt? And then where did that eclipse also go over? It went over Mexico. Again, that was the Great American Eclipse in 2024. It went over Mexico. And again, now the other big eclipse this one's even a bigger eclipse because it's going to go over the pyramids. It's going to be the longest eclipse. And it's part of the 136 sorrows, which you guys are going to have to go back and watch my other video to see how important the 136 sorrows is. But the point here is that Mexico equals eclipse. So you get an eclipse, you get a shooting at the Pyramid of the Moon in Mexico, paying tribute to the eclipse in Egypt next year. But the big thing here is the 27, okay? So again, this guy, Julio Cesar Yasso Ramirez, did this shooting off of the top of the Pyramid of the Moon. I mean, again, how much more obvious does it need to be that this is about an eclipse? The moon is an integral part of an eclipse, and the Pyramid of the Moon is the location of this. Now, the moon equals 27. Again, this is on the 27-year anniversary of the column shooting. Well, also, notice that this happened on a Monday, and a Monday is a day named after the moon. Now, look at the gematria of Monday. 27, both forward and backwards, like the moon. Now, this is a ritual, which equals 27, because the guy was 27 years old. It was 27 years after column. Well, this is all a ritual for the money reset, and money equals 27. And of course, money is also coming from moon, okay? Moon eye, money. And so all these things equal 27. That's why this guy's 27. That's why the eclipse next year is going to be in the year 27. It all connects to that eclipse. That's why this is on the 27th anniversary of the column shooting. But not only is 27 important here, notice that his last name, Ramirez, equals the moon in two ciphers, 90 and 99. Now, this guy's birthday is on 9/9. His birthday is September 9th, 9/9, which goes with his last name, gematria, of 99. And again, the moon equals 99. So it's very clear, guys, that this is about the moon, but it's also but the moon points us right back to the eclipse next year. But here's the big one, guys. Just look at this. This is what proves this is all about next year's eclipse. And remember, I did a whole video about this eclipse and the reset. So I want you to keep that in mind. The money reset, the financial reset, the economic reset. This was my video from last week. Now, this guy, he does this at the Pyramid of the Moon in Mexico exactly 67 weeks before the eclipse over Egypt, over the pyramids. And guys, this is the perfect number. It's exactly 67 weeks because in gematria, total solar eclipse equals 67. And that's what this is. It's a total solar eclipse. You're telling me that this pyramid shooting is exactly 67 weeks before the eclipse over the pyramids, and total solar eclipse equals 67? Now, blood sacrifice and human sacrifice equals 67. Now, why is that important? Because this pyramid of the moon, if you read about it, the pyramid of the moon in Mexico was used for human sacrifice. Archaeologists discovered 5 main burial complexes within the 7 layers of the pyramid. So this place he did this at was used for human sacrifice, and just notice how total solar eclipse equals 67, like human sacrifice, like blood sacrifice, and check out the dude's name. If you just use his first and last name, his name would be Julio Ramirez, equals 67. All in the same cipher, guys. Total solar eclipse, blood sacrifice, Julio Ramirez, human sacrifice, all 67. That's why it was 67 weeks exactly before this eclipse. Now, also going back to what I talked about in that video last week, I said it was all about the money reset. Now look at this, guys. What are the odds of this? The guy's name is Julio. Julio equals reset, and look what number it is, 67, the number I just pointed out. His name's Julio. 67 like reset. Notice how in the Bacon Simple cipher, money equals 67. So the money reset, both these things equal 67. Now, even Monday equals 67 in the Bacon Simple cipher. And again, this happened on a Monday. But not only does his name, Julio, equal reset in the 67, check out down here, guys. His name, Julio, is a 4 out of 4 perfect match to reset. And again, that 67 is the important one. 67 weeks before this reset. By this time next year, by this eclipse next year, I believe we will be in the center of an economic reset, which is why the Strait of Hormuz stuff is happening now, because it's bringing about an economic reset. And again, that's why this eclipse is important. And again, I already laid this out in my video last week. Again, go check it out. So how perfect, guys? Just the 67. This is all you really need to see. I don't even need to dig much deeper into this. It's all in the numbers. The 67 weeks is the most perfect number to have this happen. And it's the most perfect ritual to go with the moon, the pyramid of the moon, to go with the money, the 27s and all the monies and the moons and the 27-year-old and in the 67, because this is the reset number. This is the total solar eclipse number. And again, this is his name, Julio Ramirez, also equals 67. So yeah, it's just perfect. Now, in my video last week about the world's most powerful reset, I pointed out that Donald Trump posted this, and his tweet, world's most powerful reset equals 341. So I want you guys to keep this in mind as we go to the next slide. This also connects to the Jesuits, who are bankers, right? And their motto is Ad Merum Dei Gloriam, which equals 341. Okay, Trump connects with the Jesuits. And the World Economic Forum, the WEF, was founded on the 341st day of the year. Of course, they're connected because they're connected to the Great Reset. Okay, so this 341 number, I talked about it last week. Again, this is my slide from last week. Now check out how old this shooter was on the day of his shooting. He was 341 lunar phases. What is that? Measuring by lunar phases. So from new moon to new moon of his life, when he did this, he was in his 345th or 341st lunar phase. Again, he was on the pyramid of the moon. He was 341 moons old. And last week, I just talked about Donald Trump's tweet, which equals 341. And I just connected this to the reset. And again, Trump's tweet, world's most powerful reset equals 341. The guy, if you measure him by the moon, he was 341 lunar phases. Now, this is really important because the eclipse that I just connected to for next year on August 2nd, 2027, guys, that eclipse is on a Monday, just like this shooting was on a Monday, and it's in Janus lunation 341. Now, what's that? What's a Janus lunation 341? Well, that means from the very beginning of this century to this eclipse, it's 341 moons in to this century. And again, they're calling this the eclipse of the century, guys. And so this is why Donald Trump's tweet was pointing to this eclipse, because this eclipse is in the lunation 341 and his tweet equals 341. That's why this shooter connecting to this a week later was in his 341st moon when he did the shooting. Okay, it all goes to the lunation 341, which is the eclipse over the pyramids next year. Okay, it all fits, guys. I mean, I'm not stretching anything here. This is clearly what this is about. Okay, and again, this is why it's all about the moon and the money, because it's where. And again, what are the odds that this eclipse next year happens on a Monday? Also, just like this guy's event. Okay. Also, check this out. If you go, of course, he's dead now. He committed, what. But if you measure from his birth to the eclipse next year, he'll be 28. He would be 28 years, 327 days old. So that means the eclipse next year would be 327 days after his birthday. Well, check this out. His full name, Julio Cesar Yasso Ramirez, 327. I mean, what are the odds of that? The eclipse that I'm connecting this guy to will be 327 days after his birthday, and that's what his name equals out of all numbers. Don't think that's a coincidence. Also, this happened on the pyramid of the moon, which equals 283, like the moon in Latin equals 283. And this was a Teotihuacan pyramid, which equals 283. So this is just an addition. This doesn't really matter. This is just another interesting connection with the 283. But I want to also talk quickly about the president of. So just remember the most important part of this decode, guys. 67 weeks from the shooting to the eclipse next year. Total solar eclipse 67. Reset 67. Julio 67. Blood sacrifice, human sacrifice 67. Of course, this moon pyramid was used for human sacrifice, apparently. But the president of Mexico, I got to talk about her because she's connected to the moon. Of course, the moon is very feminine. Her full name is Claudia Scheinbaum Pardo. Well, if you take that over, I'm going to show you how it connects perfectly with this ritual and the moon. If you take her name over, Claudia Scheinbaum Pardo, notice how it equals 197 and 89. And then when you match that up, look at that, guys. Claudia Scheinbaum Pardo equals Pyramid of the Moon. And again, she is the president of Mexico. And this is where this occurred. So again, what's the odds that her name equals that pyramid? And again, it makes perfect sense. She's a feminine symbol. The moon is a feminine aspect. Yeah, I just think it's really crazy that her name equals that. I should have checked to see how many days it is after her birthday. Let's just run that quickly. So she was born on June 24th. So if we go from her birthday to the shooting yesterday on 4/20. Oh, how about that? I mean, there's a couple things I could say here. It was 9 months and 27 days after Scheinbaum's birthday. That's the Jesuit order's birthday, 9/27. The Jesuits are the eclipse code connected to this eclipse next year because the Jesuits equals 136. Again, you guys are going to have to go back. The Jesuits equals 136, right? The eclipse next year over Egypt is part of Saros number 136, which again, you're going to have to go back and watch all my decodes on the 136. But again, the Jesuits 136, right? And the Jesuits were founded 3 days before an eclipse from Saros 136, which again is the same Saros for next year. And they were founded on 9/27 in the year 1540. And again, 3 days after that, there was an eclipse in Saros 136. So from her birthday to the shooting yesterday, 9 months, 27 days to reflect the Jesuit order's birthday. Now, if you add the date, it's also 301 days. And this is actually a huge moon number. Shout out to a YouTube channel. What is his name? It's been a while since I've watched his videos. Lambda. He used to cover this 301. Okay, so this 301 is a huge moon number. And again, this is 301 days after the president of Mexico's birthday. I'm not going to talk about that now, but I'm just telling you guys that 301 has already been proven by Lambda that it's a huge moon number. So I'm sorry I didn't have that prepared for this video, but shout out to him because I think this is just more proof of that. But if we go to her next birthday, It was 66 days before her next birthday. So Schonbaum's next birthday, 66 days. I mean, that's almost 67, not quite. I mean, the 66, I could have sworn I had a 66 in there. Yeah, it's eclipse. Eclipse equals 66. But all this really isn't important, guys. What's important here is the 67 weeks from the shooting to the eclipse next year. That's the gematria of all these things. And it's important to really point this out. Again, I told you I'm going to be looking for everything connecting to this eclipse next year. And what do we get? We get a perfect thing. We get a shooting at a pyramid in perfect sync with the eclipse. I mean, you can't really make this up, right? So again, we're going to have probably more stuff like this happen, as we get closer, to the reset. But this is also going to foreshadow the money reset, which we need to be watching, the beast system, right? Which again, I showed you how the Jesuits equals 136, but the beast also equals 136. So that's another big part of this. But again, you guys got to go back and watch my other decodes. But for now, let's wrap that up. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hit that like button and help share this out. And I will see you guys later tonight on Ball Don't Lie YouTube channel for Eye to Eye with AJ, Rambo, and Cody. But until then, guys, have a great rest of your day. We'll see you later. Take care.